Yeah, so welcome to whatever number this one is. I don't even keep track of these. Um, but they keep going because you guys are still interested, and I guess there's some fun you're having as we do this. So thank you for continuing to show up. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that John Ott offered to do a presentation. He's done some research around more colors that he discovered with locomotives and what have you. So we're going to have him in the queue. And then Bernie is going to be doing his lab update in the near future as well. And I think there's one other, but I forgot what it is at the moment. So as always, if there's something that you're interested in, and for the Saturday meets with the undergrads, if there's something that you think you'd want to know about or what have you, one idea that Andy Salcius offered up was like a troubleshooting meet where you come with whatever challenge you're dealing with, and let's see if we can tap the brain trust and give you some tips around how to get around whatever you're dealing with. So those are some thoughts for upcoming. For tonight, we got Dr. Charles Taylor, retired orthopedic surgeon, on deck with the Memphis and Charleston layout update, and I'll give you a little brief update on the scenery element that I needed to complete, and then we'll cap it off with Dan and his discoveries over at the Amherst show last week. So with that, Charlie, I would like to turn it over to you.
Oh, you're gonna have to help me get on the slideshow. Talk me through that one more time.
Do you have your slideshow on your computer down below, like where it's been minimized?
I'll do it right. I'll do it right now. All right, got it.
And then you hit share screen down below.
Okay, let me pull this up a little bit.
And it should show up as an option.
I'm gonna say, I'm not seeing it.
Charlie, do you use a Mac or a Windows?
Mac.
Can't help you.
Makes you feel any better, Charlie.
What's that?
Typewriter was a newfangled invention for me.
Let me see. Okay.
There you go.
Well, it's not exactly right.
Oh.
All right. Here we go.
There.
What do y'all see?
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
Slide.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
That's quite lovely.
All right. Yeah. Apologize for a little laryngitis, but so actually I've been primarily busy keeping grandkids, but I've had a couple of railroad projects in this last year. I talked a couple of months ago about getting the locomotives going and the passenger cars, but
Charlie, hang on 1 second. Do you all have a clean view of his PowerPoint, or is it just outside of your screen?
I've got it.
Everybody's good? Cool.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to.
Mine looked good too.
So just two things tonight. Got some more for the future, but first is the Adams Express Company building in Chattanooga.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm going to do something on some B&O coal cars as well. And as always, thanks to my brother Harold. You know, if there's ever something I need done on a lathe or milling machine, Harold's there to help me out. But he just lives a block away. Many of y'all have met him. So this is kind of the primary image of the Adams Express Company, which is right in the middle of the Chattanooga rail yard. So that's the Crutchfield House behind, the shed to the left, and the Western Atlantic building would be to the right. And so you can see that there's this beautiful building in the middle of all these crummy looking shed extensions on this thing. This is a great image. It's 110 megs, and you can zoom in to the point that you can count shingles and bricks on the chimney. It's good that you got the boxcar nearby so you can scale. I think Thom showed us an Adams Express Company boxcar he's done. And I look forward to doing to one of those as well, and maybe some of the horse-drawn wagons. But so I'm beginning to blow up, and you can look at the roof of the main building,
Mhm.
and you can see that the building is kind of 3 panels by 5 panels. It is beautifully proportioned. It's got city shingles on it. And I'll blow up again. And several years ago, the first meeting I went to at City Point, we saw some buildings where the shingles, projected on the ridge, and you can see that again, again shown in this image. But you can see it's beautiful detail on the main building, kind of 3 panels by 5 panels. It's board and batten. That's kind of fun. All right. But this is about all we had to work on, at least from my standpoint. And then 2 years ago,
Wow.
2 years ago, I found this image. Now, I know that everybody's saying, "Oh, I've had that for 10 years." But anyway, I was not aware of this thing. And man, there it is. There's the other side of the Adams. And you can see kind of the core original building and these huge front windows, 4x4 pane, a giant door. And that's the Crutchfield house here in the foreground. And look at that stack of wheelbarrows.
Yep.
What's going on with that? But you can zoom in on this, and lots of horse-drawn wagons. It's just a great image.
I wanted to just point out that interesting rail that's sticking out.
Okay. The wing,
Back row.
it looks like a guardrail, or
Oh, must be. You're right. Yep. Thank you. Yep. Yep.
There's a frog, yeah.
but
Go
okay.
ahead, Charlie.
All right, so I've blown up a little bit again, and so my final call on these big front windows were 4x4 pane. I don't know if there are iron bars over these things or what. And again, a giant door. Maybe there's a sign to the left of the door, a little placard. That'd be kind of fun. But so anyway, I was excited to have this other view. And so I began to try to scale this thing. And I'm not very good with CAD, but this is SketchUp that I'm using right here. And I've probably forgotten how to do it since I've done this. But so anyway, this is from the side. Again, it's 5 panels, those beautiful pilasters. And here's the 3-panel front. So I got the kind of the overall proportions like I wanted on that. And this is where I'm heading, okay? And my thinking is this is the original building. The public space was probably right after you go in the front door. There's probably a counter, between panel 1 and 2, and they're probably primarily shelves and stuff in the back. My understanding is that Adams Express during the war hauled a lot of coffins that the richer folks who could afford to bring their sons home. I think they were pretty active in that. But so my plan is to use plywood for the walls and basswood for the ceiling, I mean, the roof parts. So nothing's glued up. Everything's just held with friction right there. So I had to make 4 big windows, a doorway, and several kind of smaller windows. And my plan was to use some laser cut 1/16 inch thick basswood to make the window frames. And so I had to be real accurate to make these openings. So I cut the rough opening with a jigsaw. And then Brother Harold made me some gauges that I would do the final filing of each hole so that the gauge would fit in precisely. So these are the windows. That's the window gauge. And then here are the little transom windows. Again, Harold made me a nice little gauge for that as well. All right, so here are the walls. They're glued, and then here are some of the little window frames put in the building. And so you make the windows. You have a grid on the outside, and then a little thin sheet of acetate and a grid on the inside. And I chose to paint the grids Charleston green, which is a combination of black and yellow. That I'm sure Brian Cameron could give me his formula. But anyway, they turn out pretty well. This is the roof. And again, it's solid basswood. And these are the ends is where I'll put the signage. I still haven't done that yet. And again, this is just laid up, the friction fit, just making sure I'm close. And then with the roof in place. This is looking from the floor of the building up towards the ceiling. Okay, and so I use those pegs that you for screw pegs for furniture making to be able to locate or relocate the roof anytime I take it off. So I glue these pegs onto the ceiling, and the little rounded, smooth nature of them helps that roof prop right back into place. I do that at all my buildings. Sometimes I use little wooden wagon wheels that you can get. And so I've begun to paint. I cut my parallelepiped hole in one roof panel with a jeweler saw. I bought this urethane casting. And now I've in that right image, I finally glued the roof together. All right, now I'm beginning to lay up the beautiful pilasters. So the pilasters got all the elements of a column, and it's fun to kind of get it architecturally correct. So here's a kind of that cap band, and then I beveled some small pieces of basswood for the piece of trim, horizontal trim, and then you see the main body of each pilaster extending below. So the building, the entire building consists of that gray plywood base, and there'll be a sidewalk on top of that. Excuse me. Sorry. And there's actually a floor inside the building that I can take out, and I can cover it with wood or paint it, whatever. Sorry. Ugh.
You want to get a drink of water?
I
you
got
got
it.
some. Okay.
So I'm laying up the sidewalk, and those are planking clamps. They come in handy when you can't reach with a regular clamp.
Ah.
And So I'm having to lay the sidewalk around each of the board and battens. So it takes a while.
Those clamps, do you screw them down or how do you attach them? You just hammer them?
Now, they're, Micromark sells them. And I've used them all over the place. Sometimes I'll use them to hold a turnout down while I'm gluing it in place. But again, if I don't have a clamp long enough to get in there, you drill a tiny little hole and then you screw these things down.
Oh,
So, and they're really handy.
got it.
And it makes sense since the sidewalk is planking.
Yeah, that's right. So I left 4 planks off, and that's where I'll locate screws to hold the whole thing to the train layout. Now, I got a piece of dollhouse trim and cut thin slivers of it for the capitals on the columns on the pilasters. And, so you see those beautiful brackets there.
Wow.
And so I've done some more painting and moving along. So the back door, I think it could have just been 3 transom windows, but I put a doorway there. There's no photo of that. I'm gluing some trim on the roof. In this case, rubber bands work better than anything else. And this is store-bought shingling. I forgot the name of the company. I can get it if y'all need it. It's so, they have kind of random shake, but this is from the original photo, it's a very dressy looking shake like the building actually had.
Wow.
So the chimney, I painted it a brick red and then took a darker highlight and a lighter highlight and painted, a couple of random bricks and then whitewashed it. So this is a look from the W&A side. And here it is today.
Wow.
Yeah, I still have to make my front door and back door. And I've got my end panels cut, but I haven't printed my signs for the company yet.
Mm.
And hopefully I'll probably make a scene inside and we'll probably light this structure because it's just right there in the middle of everything. All right. So,
Oh, wow.
all right,
Gorgeous.
the next topic is Ron Flowers got me really interested into, I guess, a couple of months ago with that fabulous photo of the B&O coal cars. So I wanted to make some coal loads. Dave Schneider initiated a project to make some camels as well as these coal cars. Something fell through and they ended up hitting the market with kind of the forerunner of factory direct trains or whatever that company is. So anyway, I had 14 coal hoppers, these pot hopper cars. And so what I wanted to capture, I just love this picture. One is kind of a large assortment of coal salve. Sorry. And then it's also a reveal of the side of the car. And the spine of the car, if you will, the center of the car, the coal is about 6 inches above the car, and at the walls it's about 6 inches below. So I wanted to kind of capture that feel make some coal loads. So
Oh, my Lord.
I had to measure every end pot and every middle pot. They're close, but they're not identical. And I had to find out And so these guys down here on the bottom, those are the end pots. It's a truncated cylinder.
Right.
And then the middle pot is a doubly truncated cylinder. So anyway, we measured all of them and came up with some dimensions. And then Harold took some old cedar scrap that we had, and he milled what you see here. And then I can put this on the bandsaw and resaw it and cut my good parts off as thick as I need them. It turned out about a 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch worked well. So, otherwise, you got 28 end pots and 14 middle pots. It'd have been a nightmare to do each of these things by sanding or piling or whatever. So initially, I would put 2 end pots into a car just to kind of fill it up. And then I put 2 more end plugs on top of that. And then I would take, this is real fine sandpaper I'm using to shim each of these wooden pucks, to keep it in the middle of the car. All right. And then with it shimmed, I then glue a piece of 1/8 inch plywood, which is 6 inches, for my scale. And so my plan is to take away all the wood I don't want to leave the load. All right, so I'm gluing the end plugs. Then I shim the middle. I'll put a middle plug in, shim it, glue it. And then the nastiest part of this technique is I take a coping saw and I follow that oval. Can you see this oval over there? So the blade is on the oval up top, but around the sides of the cedar, it's about at the waist, okay? And so you got this blade beveled as you cut it. I'll show you what happens. So that's what, and you can see my mark. And so I'll keep the blade on that line and go all the way around the part.
Jesus.
And this is what you cut off down here, the stuff lower right. And this is what you're left with. And the nice thing is the spine that's left is 1/8 inch plywood. So that's about as strong as you can make it up there, short of having a metal part. And then I take a wood rasp and kind of touch it up a little bit to get a final shape. So my coal stacked up higher than the car in the middle. I've got the reveal around the edge. And then I painted flat black. I drilled 2 small holes for a little 1/8 inch super magnets. And so here they are in place. You see it's beginning to look good.
Damn, that looks great. Wow.
All right. Then so I literally just had, I don't know why I had them, but I had kind of a bag of about 6 lumps of coal. And I never really played with coal, but you can put it in an arbor press or in a vise, in a baggie, and the stuff almost explodes. I mean, it's real easy to bust up. And so kind of based on that original picture, I want some of these chunks really big in scale, to be like a cubic foot or something. And so I glue the big ones in place first. And then I'll take Scenic cement and paint the rest of the, once the big one's set a little bit, then I'll paint Scenic cement and sprinkle some finer coal pieces. So these are the first 2 I did. And I liked it a bunch. I didn't have as much reveal at the rim of the car that I wanted. So I kind of tweaked that a little bit. So those are the first two. All right. And so anyway, I made like 6 cars. And then at that point, Brother Harold had time to make a gluing fixture. And so now I didn't have to worry about shimming those things. And that was it took a lot of time to do that. I just simply dropped my 2 end plugs and my middle plug in this part that he made, and then glue my plywood to that. And then the other steps of coping saw are the same. All right, so here's using Brother Harold's glue fixture, which worked great. And here's the setup. You know, it's weird. You can barely get hold of this piece to do the coping saw, but I did one completely with a rasp. And so that's not the way to go either. You're taking off a lot of wood. All right. So here's another 7 that have had everything. I'm going to begin the painting and application of the coal. This is my setup at home. You can see the coal cars in different stages and all the little wood plugs I've got over here, and then Harold's glue fixture here.
I like how you converted your ping pong table.
Yeah, it works out great. It works out great.
Oh, wow.
So that's another thing. I wanted to be able to run an empty train easily, and so they just pop out with that little magnet.
Love it.
So it turns out that 7 cars on a Camel is as long as I can have the train to go through the reversing sections and the Ys from an electric standpoint. But just for the hell of it, I ran a big one. It can run over parts of the layout, but this is for Ron.
Awesome. Gorgeous.
I'm really loving the different color ties.
Yes.
Oh,
That's one long butt train, brother. Wow.
that's a lot of fun. Like I say, in general, I just do seven car trains, but that's all I got.
Awesome.
Wow, wow, wow.
Charlie, quick question on on the chimney for the Adams. Did you say you cast that chimney?
No, I forgot who. I bought it. It's a cast urethane.
Got it.
Mhm.
And Tom Osterdog was asking, are those cars, those pot hoppers available anywhere? Because I know Dave, his company's defunct.
Yeah. So like I say, Dave commissioned them. They came in through factory direct trains, and I've had them for 10 years.
Right.
But I don't think they are available.
Got it.
Shapeways make something like that.
Yeah, I think they make them in HO too.
Yes.
Nick HO.
Cool.
And
Who?
and scale as well.
They originally made them an N, and somebody who shall remain nameless got after him all the time about they should do it in HO.
Got it. Charlie, that was great, man. Thank you so much for pushing through the whole thing with the throat and 5 days of being Grand Central, and appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for your time and your commitment. Your meticulousness continues to show through. I mean, it's an inspiration. Every time I watch what you and DC and others do, and I see the micro measuring and forming, I'm like, it's like, okay, here's a little bit of a master class, and it always reveals to me how I'm not quite that patient, and I always defer to, I don't know how to do it that well. That's my back door. But thank you, man. That was great. All right.
Can I just do a quick mention? I don't know if Eric Cox over there in Shapeways, if somebody was interested in O-scale cars, he might be able to take those files and produce an O-scale pot hopper.
Mhm.
That would be a question for Mr. Schneider.
No, that would be talking to Eric Cox, because he makes them, he offers them in N scale and HO scale.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
He might be able to take those same files and you can get them printed out in O scale, and how expensive they would be compared to when Charlie got his, I don't know.
Right.
But Charlie, someone made the comment, I'd like to reiterate, I love your ties on your railroad.
Yes.
Yep.
The color's magnificent and the variations.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. So I have a brief show here to share with you all. Let's see. So here's a little bit of an update, and I marked out in red. You can all see this, where the section I'm going to be talking about,
Yes.
just north of Atlanta here and a little bit south of Kennesaw. So a couple of years ago, some of you might have seen elements of this, but that shows the section that was cut. And then there's the open space that my good buddy DC came in and framed out for me. And you'll notice here a couple of things. One, how that track is, I moved it out to give a greater ease of radius. So one of the challenges was, determining whether or not that was going to play out, because the ironworks mill is just to the right of that track that's heading to the right. And then I decided to put in another siding, which adjusted the track, which you'll see in a little bit. So I had a couple of challenges to think through. One is how to integrate Kennesaw with this new section, and then how to bridge this, which starts to butt up against the redoubt that LeBron had done. So with that, it was really about just doing this, imagining perspective. So I was really taking a lot of time, like nearly a year, to just imagination around it. And then I had considered all of those things, and I actually did probably half a dozen sketches. I did a bunch of mock-ups, laid out some roads. I went through several iterations of what could be there, talked to several of you guys about what you thought might work. And then this is what I came out with, at least initially, that given the backdrop and how close this was, because it's only maybe 2 feet to the aisle, I really wanted to see if I could capture that long distance to the backdrop. And I figured maybe a mile. And I thought one of the initial transitions would need to be a tree line to really imagine some layers of perspective in that narrow space. And then it was really a matter of just, create as you go versus, I don't tend to have a complete plan. I like to let the scene kind of dictate and feel it out. So I'll do a little bit here and there, I might remove something, etc. So I work more intuitively, if you will. So phase one was bridging that backdrop, and I took these super turf green, dark green foam, and working toward from the rear, I just started to populate that gap with these, and with an extreme imagination, you know, think of that as a tree line. And then, of course, over to the left, you see all this rough texture. That's Sculptamold. And then instead of what do you call it? Trying to like sand them all out, I decided to just paint the pieces that I didn't want to have to mess with, as like, oh man, great, I got my own rock outcroppings. So I put a plethora of those in there. Phase two was the ground foam, and it was in 4 layers. And let me move this thing out of the way because I can't even see what I wrote on here. Oh, rats. That won't move. Anyhow, so you've probably seen this for anybody that's done scenery. You know, there's several layers of ground cover that you can start off with. I think I've done a total of like 7. One of the challenges was this creek, because it was a creek that went through here, and there's a little pond. I was trying to figure out a way to make that transition. I decided to let me drop a bunch of rocks in there and then figure out what I'll do after, just to kind of hide it, because you would see a clear gap, or not a gap so much as an edge. So that was one thing I had to consider. And then over to the right, you can see probably the 4 layers of ground cover in here. The backdrop is actually 2 pieces of foam core to give an idea of a couple of ridges. This was supposed to be next to, I think, down from Kennesaw. What was the mountain below that? Anybody remember? Power? No. Okay. Anyway, so that was to
Pine
depict.
Mountain,
Yes. Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Pope was shot there. That's how I remember.
Yeah. Polk took a direct hit in his chest. That's right. So the next was around looking at the tree line from foreground, which I have as between background and middle ground. And I had found all these armatures, so what I decided to do is just cut them up as small as possible. And then just with some flocking material, just start making a few dozen of these. And then you can see there's a little bit of a population of trees that are ahead of, or a little bit closer to the aisle from that back dark green tree line, to help start inching us forward to the middle ground. And then thanks to Brian, because I was thinking, geez, it'd be great to have some kind of figures back there to help imagine the perspective. And these are images that he had made for his murals that he's been doing. So he sent me several of these files.
No, they Tom,
What's that?
Tom, that was, I did those for the movie. They were command, or just figures that I drew on black paper and painted them, and then stuck a pin behind them and cut them out. So because I needed to break up things, because Airfix and everything else doesn't have a variety of anything. So I just made a lot of, but I think a lot of these took place in the crossing of the Sudley Ford. Those were the ones I used in the illustration. Then I just reduced them down.
Yeah, and the beauty of this is, if you really want to have figures, but you don't want to have to do a 3-dimensional where the flat works, these work really well. And so all you had to do was size them to your scale, or to whatever scale you wanted. And I just stuck a pin on the back of it with some CA, and then you might not be able to see them, so I circled them out. So the idea here is for you to get a sense of, he's kind of close to that back tree line, but now it's a matter of how do you build the perspective so you have some plausible, realistic perspective. One thing I will tell you that you don't want to do, like I did, I poured my creek before I had finished all my scenery. Bad idea. Bad idea. That's the last thing you want to do. So painful lesson learned there. So I first started off with some of these Scenic Express or Woodland Scenics trees. These are the plastic ones. And then what I realized is once you flock these up, you can't really see anything behind them. So I went with their deciduous trees, which are metal. And you can see a taller trunk allows you to have some view through them to give you an idea of like, there you can see the figures in the background. I'll come to that later. Bump, bump. So here's the near final scene. And one of the things I realized after looking at a lot of photos, the way to hide that bank is do what you probably would have seen. Fill it with foliage. And there's probably 5 different kinds of foliage that I've put in along here just to variate it out. And the same thing with this runoff creek here. Matter of fact, when I was planning this with DC, the initial plan was to have it just be dry and not have to worry about it. But I completely forgot that and I filled it in with Envirotex, which, okay, it worked. And you can see another figure here. And I populated the back with a few more trees and started to fill in to on the left photo, the bridging of the Kennesaw slope with this field. And again, it was, you know, just put some things in here. If you don't like it, take it out, try something else. And then you'll notice here on the left, you can see these gaps between the rocks and the water. So that I didn't like that at all. So I just hid the imperfections. Whoops. Just putting some more shrubs and what have you in here. And I'm going to probably line something down here on the right photo on that left rock, because you can see it's a little bit of a gap there. So you just keep building it as you go. And yeah, there's the full transition from Kennesaw. And it's pretty much done. It's funny when you go looking for stuff, how much things I didn't realize I had from Knock. They make some great grass packages where you can just pull it apart and tease it out. This is their wild grass.
Looks good, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then this was most of the stuff that I used. And there's a couple of Aleene's tacky glue is the best. I love it. Elmer's, you know, of course, you don't need any matte medium or anything. I always just dilute it down to what works. My good old Georgia Dirt, thanks to my friend LeBron, who had shipped me a couple of containers last year. And again, like I say, the Heike wild grass, excellent. They make probably a half a dozen or more different grass colors and what do you call it? Textures. From Scenic Express, most of this miniature horsetail is fabulous. The miniature short weed tufts, and of course, all these Woodland Scenics elements that were put in there. So you can see there's quite a bit just to help build out the texture of the scene. And that's all she wrote, boys and girls.
Nice.
Good job.
Very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, there's something about, you know what, I've always been not always, but I've been a nature lover for a long time, especially when I was working for Outward Bound. And there's just something about the serenity of nature. And I really enjoy trying to capture the realism as much as possible, because for me, it just appeals to more of a visceral experience than an intellectual experience. And I know a lot of you guys who model, you're of that ilk where you're looking to create an experience versus just an image. So yeah, I enjoy it a lot. Thanks for the opportunity to share that.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Great
you,
job,
guys.
Tom.
Thank you, Roger.
Looks great, especially since I saw the earlier business. this past summer, man, what an improvement.
Yeah, it from bare bones. Yeah, it took, and that's the thing I realized is not to push it, just because you want to get it done. Fortunately, when you're building a railroad, there's probably at least half a dozen other projects you can be working on, so you don't feel like you're under the gun to get it done. But do it so that it feels like you want it to feel. So with that, Mr. Free,
Yes, sir.
a little review of the Amherst show.
All right, let's see if I remember how to do this.
Dan and I had a brief rehearsal last night, so I'm counting on him to just nail this.
No pressure.
None. Just get it right the first time, will you, please?
Right away, I see that it doesn't. When I do, I've I have downsized my main screen, but I don't see.
When you say down, did you downsize it like with that little minus sign which says minimize?
No.
Oh,
No.
minimize it.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, but when I minimize it, I
It
get
should-
like a large postage stamp, but then I lose my share screen feature.
Just click the share screen. And then click on, if you've got it open, you just click on share screen, then click on that icon on the pop-up.
Can you see the share screen icon?
You may have to click the little button that says more.
There we go.
Okay. There we go.
Rock and roll.
All right. Are we all good?
Yep.
Okay.
Well done.
And I notice Andy is here. I had a chance to meet Andy for the first time up at Amherst. So Andy, chime in with anything that you can think of that I've missed. This is basically an update. I just kept track of what would be of interest for 19th century modeler. There wasn't a whole lot. Most of what you're going to see are structures. What there was by way of rolling stock were about 6 or 7 Mantua Generals. So I'll pass over that. Everyone knows what those are like and about. It wasn't very well attended vis-a-vis past shows because of the nor'easter, but that made for getting around a little easier. There's an outfit called Creative Laser Designs, and this is what was there. So you all may already know of some of these manufacturers. So this is not necessarily what was new, but this was what was available. Creative Laser Designs was having a going out of business sale with 50% off their models. They're all laser cut, everything from G down to Z. And they had quite a number of kits that were suitable for 19th century or could be backdated with a minimal amount of work. And they, at 50% off, it worked out quite reasonable. I was buying kits for $7 a pop.
Wow.
Wow.
So you may want to be in touch with these people. I checked their website, and it didn't mention anything about going out of business on their website the other day. I mean, this is like 2 or 3 days ago. So I don't know whether that was a tout or a come on for the show or not. But if you do contact them, it certainly wouldn't hurt to ask.
Wow. Nice.
This is a model of a sugar house, which I think I'm going to reposition for something. But for instance, that was, I think $12.95 and half price off. I got it for $6. This is in an N scale. I don't know what the prices would have been for the other scales. There was a company called Motrack Models. They had 2 or 3 models in HO that were suitable for 19th century. The model in the upper left reminds me of the station that was in Alexander's Civil War Railroads book for some reason, I think because of the veranda, but very nice models. This was an N scale station by Rail Scale Models, which I thought had some potential. I'm not sure whether they make an HO version. And as you can see, the price $62.50. I thought that's a little pricey for N scale, but especially coming off the half price sale at the other place. Crow River Products makes some great industrial accessories, O gauge and HO gauge, and they're just fantastic. They are almost up to the standard of Thom's rolling mill. They really have some nice stuff. You can see how they did a mock-up of the mill in the lower left-hand corner.
Wow.
Nice stuff. Well worth taking a look at. This guy, Andy Small, I kept coming back to his stand because his stuff was just so amazing. He has done a whole series of models. These are barges. I talked to him a little bit. He said this is actually based on a Union Army barge. And then he has also or paddle wheels.
Oh, wow.
And then you can see what he has done with a river stringer using the barge as the underbody and the paddle wheel. He just does some amazing stuff, and those paddle wheels look like they would just save you a ton of time if you were to set about building one of those without a kit. Like I say, I kept coming back to his stand because his stuff was just so nice. He does HO and O and just a couple things in N. You can see some of the cartwheels he does and the kits for crates and such.
Wow.
Yeah, very nice stuff. Here's another model ship that he did sample.
For those crates, does he make the decals?
No, I don't think so. I think he's probably just lifted those off the internet and resized them and cut and pasted them.
Okay.
Let's see. Some of the wagons right in our time frame. And I had never heard of this, a Sloven wagon. Have any of you heard of it before?
Very low body, and the back axle, it doesn't have an axle. It's just below the.
Right, they're underhung, and
Yeah.
as he explained it to me, was for handling loads that were very bulky and hard to maneuver, so it made it easier to unload and offload. I thought they were a very unique model. So
Gorgeous.
but not an N scale.
Wow.
Yeah, he had some just great stuff. It was a small stand, but I kept going back to it time after time because it was just amazing to see what he was able to do. And then Bollinger Edgerly scale trains. I was unaware of them. I don't know whether any of you are, but they had some great models, and a lot of their models are based on historic prototypes.
Oh, wow.
And O scale only, but they do make shingles in N scale.
I was going to say, best, I have a lot of their detail parts, and they are extraordinary. They're really clean, and it's a nice variety of everything from pulleys. I mean, it's remarkable.
They have over 300 scale scratch building parts, little cast pewter parts. If you go on their website,
Right.
Amazing line of buildings.
Wow.
These are just a few. I came away thinking that Best and the train troll stand were from a 19th century point of view, probably the best two stands in the show. And then there was this station, and it has potential, and I forgot to get the card or to figure out who it is that sells it, but it's out there, HO scale. Now let's see if this works. I thought this was kind of a neat. I don't know whether you could hear that, but for
Yeah.
$20 you can have a pre-recorded warm summer night cicadas in the background.
That's good.
For your warmer weather, that is really a neat feature.
They got one for mosquitoes?
No, it sounds of people slapping their thighs.
Yeah.
Oh, those cicadas sounded like crickets, so.
Yeah. And actually, that's about it. There, like I said, there was not much in rolling stock, just Mantua Generals, and there was one brass 440. None of the old MDC stuff. Bachmann has upped its game on its N scale billboard 1880s, 1890s cars, but pretty much a dearth of things for 19th century. So I'll add these two things that were not at Amherst, but I found them recently. There's a guy on eBay that is selling 3D printed stills. So that might be of interest. And Auhagen in Germany will be coming out with a cable, a functioning cable haul winch system. So anyone who has a harbor scene or a coal staging scene, that is something of interest. It's in HO and 1/120th scale only. But fully functioning, it actually is a pretty intriguing model. They have a video of it on YouTube. I put the site to it if you want to see it in operation. I think all you would need to do would be remove that corrugated iron Quonset hut and put a suitable board and batten over it, and you'd be in business. So there you have it. There wasn't a whole lot at Amherst, but maybe you saw some things that might be of interest.
Wow. Great review. Great review, Dan. I mean, some of those, the wheels, the wagons, my Lord, that's a good resource. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a lot of these wagons. They're from Prizer, but they're with those big bulky wheels, and I've been wanting to know where to get them. So now I know. That's fabulous. Thank you.
I think you can post a PowerPoint in the group's webpage, right? On groups.io.
Probably.
So what I could do is post the PowerPoint, and that way people will have all the web addresses and the phone numbers that I have on the slides, because I know, it's all to go on YouTube and try and scribble it down while the video's playing. So I'll do that in case anyone wants to contact these people.
Awesome.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, I guess on one hand, it was kind of good that it wasn't overcrowded, so you got to casually move around and see all those things.
Right.
Yes.
Bad for the vendors, but
Yeah, there were, Andy, I don't know, how would you say, maybe 15% empty tables?
There was a lot of empty space and empty tables as well.
Yeah.
You could have a dance party. You could have a waltz. It was great.
They
It's
did.
funny. The places that you went, Dan, I ended up going to the same places. I talked to Andy Small and actually talked to him about those
Sloven wagons.
Sloven wagons, and I got this is a I don't know if you can see me. Sorry about
Back
that.
it up a little.
Well,
go to your right. There it is.
It's a Renault log hauler, because he's a
Wow.
I never knew that they made these, but the French tank company after World War I, they made the tanks into log haulers. So I ended up with one of those coming home with me. I know it's not Civil War, but
It's something that you found. That's cool.
yeah. Also, laser design place, they had the 20 mule team, the Borax 20 mule team. So
Oh, yeah.
it's $4 for the whole kit. So
Those were great bargains. I ended up walking away with 4 of those kits because at half price, you just couldn't beat it.
Yeah.
Another thing, I don't know whether, how many of you all have heard of Deluxe, I think it's called Deluxe Materials. They're an outfit from the UK.
Yeah.
And I ended up buying a bottle of their glue. They now have a glue that's kit that's specifically designed for laser cut. And they have a cannula tip rather than a micro tip. I'd been using a micro tip, and I just opened this up today on a kit that I'm working on and tried it with the cannula tip. And the flow is about half of what you get on the finest of micro tips. So I'm very happy with that because I hate seeing glue ooze out from between the seams. So that was a good find.
Dan, what did you call that? What kind of tip?
Cannula. Yeah, in other words, a cannula is like the the needle they put in IVs when you're in the hospital.
Right.
It's like that. It's that fine. So it's just that much finer from a micro tip, and it really makes a difference. I'm like, in N scale or that sort of thing, you're working in millimeters. I don't know if you can see.
Oh yeah.
I'm not getting any glue out from under that from the stonework. And that's like a millimeter thickness.
And the name of the glue again?
It's called the Laser Cut Glue Kit.
Okay.
Deluxe Materials. They're out of the UK. They were over. There were a number of UK dealers there. I'll bet they were like disappointed they came all the way and had a snowstorm. But I've been very happy with the precision you're able to get with this particular tip. So that was one good find from Amherst.
Okay. What scale were those 20 mule team borax wagons in?
they were O scale.
O scale?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was looking for the company name and it didn't come in the original box. I have the directions, but I think they were it was a promotional thing from the Borax company.
Oh, so they were kits from back in the 50s.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember those.
Yeah.
I think Charlie's got a couple of those.
Oops.
That sounds like an eBay search term.
I think there are a bunch of them out there, and it's a great source for 20 mules. I mean,
yeah, I couldn't beat the price at $4.
No.
Yeah, I've got 2 sets of the 20 mule team sets. I got them in Mojave because that's where the 20 mule teams are. And anyway.
Cool. Good. All right. All right, gentlemen, any final questions or comments?
All right.
Good. Well, again, thanks so much to Charlie and the work that he's been doing. I can't wait to see what we see with you next. Dan, thanks so much, you and Andy, for getting up there and sharing with us some of those great finds. I tell you, I wasn't expecting much to come out of that, but you found some really good stuff. Your photographs were great. The information about the sources, well done. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tom, for herding cats.
Yes.
Does
Now
anybody
some-
know if the B&O hoppers that Charlie has is available for HO anywhere?
Shapeways, I think.
Yes, Shapeways.
Shapeways.
There were 2 or 3 of you all talking about getting together at Amherst. Were you able to do that?
There were 5 of us that were initially said they were going to make it, but it ended up Andy, me, and Christina.
Also, I ran into Paul Harbour
Oh,
up there
did
as
you?
well. I
Oh,
did.
cool. Good, good.
So
Well,
we did
Dan, I think
represent.
we'll pull our funds together, and you can be our roadie where you go to these different shows and see what you can find. Be like what do you call it? The on the street reporter.
There you go.
If you're going to do the HO scale pot hoppers, it's Panamint Models.
Yeah.
The
Eric
shop
Cox.
is on Shapeways, and the owner's Eric Cox, COX.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So we'll probably see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Y'all stay well.
You all too.
Night.
Yeah.
Guys.
Carol.
Keep
Thank you
on
so
building.
much.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, guys.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you, Tom.
guys. See you, George.
Thanks, Tom.
Hey, thanks, guys. Good presentation, Charlie. I'll tell you, those pictures don't do your layout justice. I'll just say that from a first-person perspective. Yeah, great meeting, guys. Appreciate all of you and all y'all are doing. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Daryl.
All right, see you, fellas.
Good to see you, Sam. Thanks for joining. Oh, there he goes.